mean, Hampton Village is similar in age to Willow Grove, but the house that you're going to get in Hampton Village is definitely going to be cheaper, I would guess, depending on the house, anywhere from, 25 to 50,000, maybe a little bit more extreme, but you are going to save money.
This is the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, your home for all things Saskatchewan, all things real estate. When someone's moving to Saskatoon, the number one thing on someone's mind is where is a good part of the city to live? And a lot of times it comes down to east versus west. And I got Angela Porreli on today because Angela did a fantastic YouTube video about this exact topic. And I was like, man, I got to get Angela to come on and share her expertise on this. And I would recommend, I'll leave it in the show notes. Everyone go and watch Angela's episode as well, because you went like really deep, Angela, into different neighborhoods and different aspects. And I thought it was really, really fantastic. So well done to you on that great video.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a bit of a longer one, but it's probably the most common question I've asked for people moving here. So
it's one that I think is most Google searched. Everyone gets asked it. So I think it's a really prudent question to go forward with. Before we get into East versus West and the pros and cons, Angela, give us an introduction of yourself as a realtor, your background in the industry, just before we get started.
Okay, for sure. Well, I started in 2007, so I've been doing it for just over 17 years. Started in a market actually kind of similar to what we're experiencing right now. Everything was crazy. There were bidding wars, lots of competition that way. So it was kind of a sink or swim scenario. I personally loved it because if you're willing to put in the work and get out there, you could really get your business going quickly and well. So it's been fun to see it kind of cycle through and come back around again. I'm strictly residential. I don't do anything with commercial, farm. I can handle acreages, but that's about it. And based on that focus, it's been really good because I've handled the Saskatoon market for long enough now that I'm very familiar with a lot of the ins and outs. It's really been a lot of fun. I am married. I've got a couple of adult kids. One's back home for a little bit now. The other one's been out of the house for a while. And yeah, aside from that, I just kind of keep busy with lots of different things around the city where there's paddle boarding or going to the gym or golfing and all the basics.
If you follow this channel for information about real estate and what's going on in Saskatoon, Angela's channel is also really great for information on different neighborhoods. So again, a plug for everyone to go check out Angela's channel as well. And getting right to it here, Angela, we're talking about east and west side of Saskatoon. Both have their connotations, and I personally believe, because I've lived on both sides of the city, that you can find really wonderful neighborhoods wherever you go. But I did want to kind of go through the pros and cons of each, and how I've broken it down is amenities, facilities, the cost, and then livability and safety. So when we're talking about amenities and facilities, what can you tell us if we're comparing the east side versus the west side of the city?
Well, that's a really good question. As far as amenities and facilities, I would say a lot of people find that the east side might be a little bit more conveniently located if they're working at the university, which is a big draw for Saskatoon, working in any of the hospitals. That said, I mean, the west side, you can get to the hospitals no problem. There are hospitals on the west side, but a lot of people seem to find that that central and east area give them the best access there to those amenities. But beyond that, when you're dealing with other things for people that aren't working in those industries, and you just need your groceries, your schools, things like that, I would say they're very equally balanced. Like you've got a good draw of whatever you may need, whether it's civic centers or schools or groceries on both sides. So I'd say they're pretty balanced in that way.
One of my favorite parts, and just to give a plug to the west side, when I lived on the west side, I often frequented the Shaw Center, one of Saskatoon's newest civic centers, and so nice, like Olympic-sized swimming pool, great gym, great facility, super clean, good school. And so from that side, would you say from a, we'll say civic center standpoint, are they fairly equally balanced if we're comparing the two?
Comparing the two that way, oh, the Civic Center over there, the Shaw Center, I think is by far superior. And there is talk of a new one going in on the east side eventually, but I think that's quite a few years down the road. And they did close the Harry Bailey, which was not necessarily equivalent, but it was probably the closest thing the east side had before to the Shaw Center with the diving and the couple pools and everything. So with that closed, I would actually say the west side is superior in that matter. And I mean, our current Olympian, he trains at the Shaw Center on the west side there. So I might have mixed up my directions in a bit ago. But yeah, I'd say the west side is superior as far as that particular element goes at the moment. So it might balance out in the future, but
For now. Let's backtrack one. I wanted to clarify when we're talking about the east side and west side. What does that mean, Angela? For someone who's not familiar with Saskatoon, when you look at a map, where is the split point when we say this is kind of the east side, quote unquote, and this is the west side?
yeah. So what people will generally say is they take the river and that splits it in half. I actually disagree with that, because when people start talking east and west side, a lot of people still consider the north end part of the east side, but the north end is on the west side of the river. So a more general element that I would say is if you took Idlewild Drive and went straight up there, if people are looking on a map, it runs north to south. That's going to be kind of your best element of a split as far as the east and west side, if you went based on Idlewild Drive more than even just the river, because there's some other areas, even when you get into central Saskatoon with City Park and North Park and, Richmond Heights, those areas, they're not necessarily east side, but they don't have the west side connotation that seems to come along with that.
One connotation that I think is a big positive of the West Side is cost. Can we compare the two and just walk us through some of those different neighborhoods and how, if you are thinking more budget friendly, there are still some amazing neighborhoods on the West Side that you can get into and it'd be a really great option for you.
Yep, definitely. A lot of it can come down as well on whether or not you're open to living in a place that's being gentrified. If you've got um, the ability to move into an area that is just being refurbished, you might get some really good deals. So a fabulous example of that would be Holiday Park right now. It is maybe not the main focus. For the longest time, Riversdale has been the area where they're putting a lot of money. You're getting a lot of new builds. They've really been cleaning it up, bringing in a lot of businesses, and it's really, really kind of become very trendy. But then moving beyond that, you're getting into King George and Holiday Park, which are close to the river. There's some absolutely gorgeous little houses in there, big trees, like literally a block or two, and you could be out paddleboarding or doing whatever you wanted. And so those are some really cool spots. If you like something newer, you move further over. Hampton Village is similar in age to Willow Grove, but the house that you're going to get in Hampton Village is definitely going to be cheaper, I would guess, depending on the house, anywhere from 25 to 50,000, maybe a little bit more extreme, but you are going to save money going over to Hampton Village as opposed to on the east side. Um, when you get into, I would say, Westmount, Mayfair, some of those different areas as well. Caswell has some absolutely gorgeous houses in there. A lot of those neighborhoods, they might get a bit of a bad rap as you get to the exteriors of them. When you get to the exteriors and you're spreading out towards any of the busier streets, which is normal in a city, 22nd, 20th, 33rd, Idlewild, you get a little bit more transient traffic, and people might complain about some of the elements of who might be wandering around their house. But you get further into those neighborhoods, and there are some really quiet, very, very well cared for streets and just some gems. I absolutely love some of the houses in there, not just for the house themselves, but the character of the area. And a lot of those owners have been there 30, 40, 50 years. And when you get that, you know that you're usually in a decent spot. People don't stay that long if they hate the neighborhood.
For sure. I'll use a personal example in this case. For a long time, there is a street about, I think it's 6 to 8 blocks west of St. Paul's Hospital. And St. Paul's Hospital has a really bad rep when it comes to, not wanting to necessarily be around there and hang around. But I lived 8 blocks away and never had any issues. Super quiet, no one walking around. It was a very nice house that I was living in at the time. And so at that time I was like, oh, you live on the west side. But it's like, yeah, but it's super quiet, super safe, and a lot cheaper than what I would get on the east side. One quick little tidbit on this one, Angela. If we were looking at the east side of Saskatoon and someone was cost conscious, do you have neighborhoods that you would recommend? Because I think on the general level, the west side, you're going to find cheaper properties. But if someone's like, I want to live on the east side, maybe for what you were pointing out, access to the university, close to the hospitals, what would you tell them on that side?
Yep. In those situations, I would recommend that they probably look in Sutherland. Even getting into Exhibition or Queen Elizabeth, you might find something a little bit more affordable if they're willing to look at smaller properties as well. That's the other option is start looking at townhouses or duplexes. If you're willing to share a wall with somebody, you can often get a lot more affordable living as well. So those would probably be the most affordable areas on the east side currently. They're a little bit, the Sutherland area, if somebody's going to the university, is fabulous access there. But for some reason, the house prices haven't been pushed as high. They're starting to move up, definitely. Part of that may be because they cleaned up Central Avenue when they removed a couple of the bars that were making a little more colorful in the evenings. It would get a little bit wild down there. You couldn't, but those are gone. And so Sutherland has really, really kind of become much more of a family neighborhood. And kids can, not young adults, I guess. They're not kids. I call them kids because that's how old mine are. But they can walk or bike to the university from there. So I think that's a great gem for families or investors. What a fabulous place if you're buying a place for your kids to go to school, or if you just want an investment property and don't want to pay the prices for Varsity or Nutana, go check out Sutherland, even into Forest Grove if you need to a little bit. But yeah, that would be another good pocket.
I was going to say, from that university aspect, it might make a lot of sense from an investment standpoint to be in a Sutherland where you have great access to the university, cost of getting into the property is a little bit lower, and a huge tenant base for people who want to be in that area.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think it's a great option for people. And there's more infills going in as well now. So if somebody's looking at doing an infill, it might be hard to get your hands on a lot, but it's a good place to be watching for one to come up.
Excellent. Kate, last point on our list, Angela, livability and safety. Give us kind of an east versus west pros and cons on this one.
You know what? On that one, I have a little bit of mixed opinion. Okay, so where I live in a mid 60s neighborhood on the east side. And in most any city that you live in, I think you just have to be smart about when you're out and about as well. I personally wouldn't go walking by myself at night in my neighborhood. And I feel that I have a very safe neighborhood. I think that's just, part of living in a city. But at the same time, there's very safe neighborhoods in both areas. But a general rule of thumb is anywhere that you are near busy streets where you might have people wandering around a little bit more, I think you're more apt to see a bit of issues here and there. So that could happen on the east or the west side. There are certain areas, and this is the only problem and why the west side has gotten a bit of a bad rap, I think, is because there are certain streets and areas on the west side that we know people spend more time out on the street at night, for unfortunately their personal lifestyle or their particular work choices. So those areas, yes, you are going to, without doubt, have a little bit more of a safety element. You're more apt to maybe, see some needles on the ground in the morning, things like that you have to be aware of. But that's something that we educate people on when they come to the city as well. I have actually had quite a few clients come in who have a real heart for trying to help clean up an area like that. So that's where they want to be. They want to be there. They get to know the people. They actually talk to them. They want to help them. And so there's opportunities for whatever somebody's really looking for. But I think as long as you know where you're going, you can have that safety element no matter what. But yeah, it's just be smart.
Before we get to your contact details, Angela, I'll throw this one at you. If you and the family had to relocate and you had to pick three neighborhoods that you're like, I really love these neighborhoods personally, what would those neighborhoods be?
You know what? The more I've worked in the city, if I had to move right now, I still really like my neighborhood. I would probably look at for established ones. I love River Heights. It's just beautiful. That would be one of my top picks. I really, really like North Park right now. A lot of cool houses going up in there. And if I had to go into a brand new neighborhood, which is not as much what I would be looking for, I would personally lean towards Brighton, which I know isn't what everybody would choose. I know a lot of people really go towards Rosewood or Evergreen or something. They're all great neighborhoods. I would personally choose Brighton just because I find it's very easy to get to everything. You get to the hospital, U of S, downtown quite quickly, and they really built it with all the amenities in place. So once you're there, anything that you need, you're a short drive or walk away, and they were putting all the parks and everything. I just thought it was very well designed. And those would probably be my top three that I would lean towards.
Brighton is such an exciting neighborhood because it's going to grow so much more. I saw a schematic that one of the builders had put up, and basically what Brighton is now, there's going to be a whole nother neighborhood on the other side. So it's very exciting to see as the city grows, as these neighborhoods pop up, I think the city's going to continue to look more and more attractive for more and more buyers. So thank you for your picks, Angela. I always kind of am curious what realtors say, because you guys are obviously the ones with the most information. And so, yeah, thanks for those. If I had to pick, it would actually be one on the west side. It'd be Montgomery, because I love it's almost like a lake life feel. Like it's Montgomery in itself is almost a different community than Saskatoon. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. It was actually developed for people coming back from the war. And so all the lots are so much bigger. They gave them more land when they were coming back. You do get the odd little one that's a tiny little parcel in there, but so many of them are just huge. And like you said, it feels like you've gone into a different area. And it's funny how many people, if they grew up in that area and moved out for some reason, that's where they want to go back and buy to. Once people have lived there, they do not want to leave. That's a really good pick, actually. I like that one.
Thanks, Angela. Okay, contact details. If someone's like, geez, this is a really great conversation, I want more information on kind of the ins and outs, or some of the stuff we talked about was interesting for them, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
They can give me a call or a text at 306-291-4664. Email address is Angela at saskatoon.homes, which is also my email address, saskatoon.homes. Any of those places, you can find me on almost any of the social channels and direct message me on there as well. I think I'm pretty easy to find now, but happy to chat.
Question I ask everyone, Angela, if you could go back and give young Angela a piece of advice, could be when you're first starting out in real estate or any point at your life, what advice would you give yourself, and give us a little background on that?
You know what? I would tell myself to not be so worried about what other people think. I was a very shy, very fearful kid growing up. And it took me a long time to kind of let go of that and just really start to enjoy life and not be so worried. Obviously, not be rude to other people. That's not what I mean by that. But I mean, just letting go of expectations and just learning to enjoy life and realize that yeah, you know what? Other people aren't thinking about you as much as you actually may think they are. They're more worried about what you're thinking of them. So enjoy life, be yourself, be authentic, and yeah, just don't let other people get in your head. So
Awesome. The third plug of the episode, go check out Angela's YouTube channel for more information on Saskatoon. She does a wonderful job there. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of that knowledge here, Angela. I really appreciate it.
thanks for having me. It was fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. I hope you liked it, found some value here. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button. Two things before you go. Number one, if you'd like the chance to win your mortgage payment, simply recommend me as a mortgage broker. The person you recommend, if I do a discovery call with them, you can win up to $2,500 for a win your mortgage payment or to cover off your rent. Simply recommend me as a mortgage broker and you're entered into the draw. Secondly, the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast is teaming up with the Saskatchewan Realtors Association as they host the State of Real Estate coming up in September. If you'd like a discount on your ticket, come say hi to me at the event. Simply enter promo code RON10 when you're buying your ticket, and we'll see you there. Until next week, I'm Ron Caroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. Bye for now.